What is going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is, and welcome back to another video with your man, Immersiaholic. Today we are starting episode 2 of our Rise of the Julia campaign for Divided Impera on Total War Rome 2. Welcome. Now, no long intro, we're just jumping on straight into the episode as we got a long one today. I'm going to start off by showing you guys our new cultural differences penalty. You can see it there listed at 12. Whereas before, I believe it was listed around 7 or maybe 6, which might not seem like a lot, but that is our core province, Rome, which is very interesting, and I'm sure many of you guys have probably never seen cultural differences in Rome be so volatile. It's going to be a big game changer as we start expanding out, and we have no cultural, I guess, relations in the places that we go and conquer. In the meantime, I am looking into diplomacy. Now that we've conquered the Etruscans, I was hoping that the Ligurians, who were at war with them, would be a bit more willing to ally themselves with us. Unfortunately, they're not. They don't even take a non-aggression pact. We still do have trade, and our relations with them will improve over time, but they don't even take it with a little bit of money. They're just not interested at this time. Now, we're about to have something happen after this during the end turn, which makes me feel like the Ligurians also were under the same effect. That perhaps the AI doesn't understand that the Etruscans are gone until a turn after it happens. So we'll wait and see. I do get some more relations established with the Massalia and the Ardii, which is an Illyrian tribe to the east. So that's good. A little bit of extra money in our pocket, and also a little bit more security in the northwest, which we do need. Otherwise the Gauls can cause us a lot of issues when we're trying to deal with the Greeks. The First Legion is still stationed at Arretium. We haven't moved them just yet, as they don't have the movement points, so I'm just looking into what we can recruit in the meantime, which is not a lot. We just get another unit of Principes. And now here, I'm actually going to show you guys the new edicts that you can issue in the latest patch of Divided Impera. A lot of them are very interesting. Some of them have some pretty harsh negative effects, but all of them feel fairly balanced. Especially if you want to specialize in something like the slave trade and whatnot, which being Rome, we probably will after a certain amount of time. But in the meantime, I'm going to go with Romanization, which will give us a little bit of extra culture to our core region. And then here we go. This is what I was talking about. Syracuse declares war on us, which is very interesting. Not really too much of a big deal. I did expect them to declare war, but they shouldn't be a problem at all, and you guys will see why in a moment. Our governor in Rome is leveling up. We're going to pursue the public orator tree, just because I like having the -6 and then I believe -12 to banditry in the region, which means that Rome, the province itself, should be fairly stable as we continue to develop it, and it actually get some banditry happening, but our governor should hopefully balance that out, at least for the meanwhile. The First Legion marches south of Rome. We will be recruiting more troops once we land there, or march, I should say. We're just trying to get everything even. We're going to be recruiting a couple more Principes to round it off, so it's going to be 6 Astati in the front, 6 Principes in the back, and we're going to have about 5 levies in the front. I didn't care to get 6 levies. Levies are levies, and they're fairly useless after you expend their ammo. They can be useful, but give and take. At Arretium, the town we just took from the Etruscans, I was trying to figure out what to build exactly, so instead of recruiting those soldiers, I'm actually going to go back on that and recruit a vineyard there instead. It does suck we won't get the soldiers we wanted right then and there, but at the same time, we can't have slums developing in our regions. It's just going to be too much of a pain to deal with. So instead of getting the full amount of soldiers I wanted, I just get some levies and end the turn. And then this is what I was talking about. Syracuse instantly comes at us with a peace offer during the end turn. Again, I believe when they declared war, it didn't take into account that we just crushed the Etruscans in the north. And so once they saw we did that and saw how actually powerful we are, they changed their minds and came begging for mercy, which we took gladly with a little bit of money on the side. Again, the First Legion is moving south. Next turn we'll be going to southern Italy proper, but now isn't the time as I really want to try and recruit as many as we can into the army. Here I wanted to show you guys our first chapter of the objectives that the historical objectives submod is actually issuing to us. I'm not sure if we're going to be pursuing all of these objectives at the moment, but it is just to give you guys a rough idea of what is kind of expected of you in a typical Rome campaign. You don't have to do this, it is just optional, but we will see as I play the game more and more. Here is a bonus objective we have, which is the Samnite, Etruscan, and Pyrrhic Wars, where we're actually about to complete it by taking Pyrrhus itself. Once we take that city, we will have the entire province of southern Italy, and then we'll get a little bit extra cash. During the intern, the Ligurians actually come to me to establish some diplomatic relations, which is amazing. And then at the same time, Carthage and Syracuse are now at war, which is only further amazing because it will distract Syracuse from us. They shouldn't be declaring war on us anytime soon with the superpower that is Carthage knocking on their door. And they usually take a while to conquer one another. Well, usually Carthage will conquer them, but it's going to take a while. Here I am just checking out the diplomacy and the overall situation of Epirus. They're actually nearly desperate for peace. They're willing to talk about it at least. Obviously I don't want any peace whatsoever, but I am just trying to figure out how strong or weak they are. And it's looking like they're actually fairly weak. It shouldn't take much for us to get a decisive victory over them, including a decisive peace deal, which is what I want. I want to take Taurus, and then I want peace. I don't want to go into Greece at the moment. Greece itself will give us more issues than it would solutions right now. So here I am looking on the campaign map to figure out where I want to send the First Legion. Depending where you have your army on the campaign map, it develops a battle map to sort of reflect that. So I put it on the top of the hill over the I guess the valley of Taurus. I don't know if you call it a valley, but anyway, Epirus takes the bait. They come and attack us while we're in our position. However, there is a lot of them, and I sat at this screen for a long time, at least 5 minutes, and that's a solid 5 minutes, really debating if I wanted to take this. Our troop numbers are about 2/3 of theirs, roughly. They do have a very hectic mixture of things. They have some very basic militia units, but then they have some top-of-the-line pikemen. Their generals' units are solid shock cavalry, which will actually do a lot of damage to our men if I don't stop them. And they have war elephants and their own separate cavalry contingent. It's a big risk, but if we can wipe them out now, this is Epirus's 2 main armies, and then Taurus is ours for the taking. So I take the gamble, and I shall see you guys on the battle map. And alrighty, just before we jump into the battle, I do want to say that sadly, for whatever reason, the battle replay for this battle in particular corrupted and I could not use it. I believe it's because my version of Divided Impera had to get updated, and hopefully that will not be a problem in the future, but we'll just have to see. Regardless, you guys are going to be seeing live footage of me controlling the army. We position ourselves on top of the hill here. Is a very large hill, but it's not a very steep hill, so we're not going to get that massive terrain advantage I was hoping we did. I positioned my army in 3 layers, levies at the front, Hastati in the middle, Principes in the rear. Fairly standard Roman formation, we just don't have the triarii. But oh well, they're too expensive anyway. I did place our mercenary cavalry on our right hand side, deep in the forest, waiting for their enemy reinforcements. Just to try and bring them out at the right time, but you'll see I'll actually pay for that later. Here comes the enemy's elephants charging up at us as we're forming up our line. A little bit inconvenient, and they're actually going to get a decent charge on our levies, but it is just levies. The levies are actually going to get a lot of javelins into the enemies, and then the troops behind the levies are going to get even more as well. So all in all, we're actually going to deal with these elephants very, very easily. At least easily compared to what they could have done, which is hundreds of kills. They will kill about 50 of that levy unit, but again, it's just a levy unit, it's no big deal. But I still thought you guys might find it interesting to see a little bit of close-ups of the elephants. As we won't be seeing them too much until we start fighting Carthage, at least. But they are a beautiful unit, and I'm looking forward to using them as the campaign develops. I really want to try and make them an efficient unit, if we can. But like I said, we dealt with them very easily, and now it's time to move our line forward so the slingers can stop hammering us and we can get in range of their heavy melee units. And here we go. This is why. Our javelins are absolutely annihilating them. That's why I wanted to get close. However, I did get a little bit too close. And then a few things happen all at once. The line connects with our levies just as the enemy cavalry is outflanking us. And you're going to see my microing skills be pretty terrible in this battle. In general, I thought I was pretty decent with my micro, but this battle is going to prove otherwise. We get outflanked by their shock cavalry and melee cavalry, which is going to be a big no-no to us. Was that actually too shock? It might be too melee. But anyway, regardless, it's cavalry and they're outflanking us. That is a big issue. And in the meantime, our levies are actually getting caught up in melee fighting in the front line because I didn't pull them back fast enough. Which again is going to be a big no-no, and we're going to take some unnecessary losses and do some, well, not do some damage that I hope the levies would. So we do pull them back though. We do kind of recover the situation fairly quickly. We actually get one of those cavalry units to rout, and then within a minute or so we're already outflanking the enemy on our left-hand side or right-hand side of the screen. I do get caught off guard slightly by the enemy cavalry charging my general, who I do have to get to do a lot of the fighting with. But at the same time, that other unit has already routed by now, so we should be able to tangle him up with our cavalry. I'm even going to send him some levies because they ran out of ammunition and we just need to get them involved. And we need to really start wrapping up these flanks. If we don't, we're going to get caught in a meat grinder with their pikemen and heavy hoplites.
Our men flee the field of battle. This is a shameful.
The enemy general here is about to die actually. He's that cavalry unit that was caught up against my general. But remember, there is a second unit of a general's unit, and that is actually Pyrrhus himself, the leader of Epirus. So sadly we don't get to kill him here, but perhaps later on in the battle we will. The enemy is sending in their slingers now as they're out of ammunition. But we send in our levies to counter that. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. And there goes the enemy general dying, at least one of them. Remember, this is two armies we're facing, but they linked up very quickly. So they're basically hitting us both at once. I'm trying to use my Principes in the second line to plug up the gaps that are forming from the Hastati starting to get ganged up on and beaten down by his multiple units. We still have a few units in reserve that we're holding, but I'm going to be swapping them out fairly soon, especially with that Hastati unit that's very depleted. We need to get them out of there and swap them just like the Romans used to do. Here you see another big blunder where the enemy general, this is their proper hectic shock cavalry, actually gets a solid charge of my Italian mercenary cavalry unit, and they're going to obliterate that unit. They're going to kill most of the cavalry, and they're going to rout at the same time, which is a very big loss to us. Just after that though, skipping ahead a little bit, the enemy general charges into the infantry, so while he's doing that, I'm going to be charging his infantry on our left-hand side up over here. We do get a few enemy units routing from it, but as soon as my general gets into the melee, his general pulls out, so I have to pull mine out and then try and get them ready to face off against the general. The general is really going to be the biggest issue for us to deal with at this time. He's a powerful unit, and if I don't stop him soon, he's going to be just constantly charging into us. Luckily, the Italian mercenary cavalry came back and stopped routing so I can get them involved. However, I do another blunder, and instead of having them chase down the enemy general, I have them chase down these routing units. I really wanted to make sure these units wouldn't come back from routing, so it wasn't a terrible choice, but at the same time, it was more important to take care of the enemy general, and so I kind of missed that up. I have a couple little holes in our line, but nothing too big. Again, we are just facing pretty much spearmen. There's a couple units of swordsmen in there, but they're fairly low tier. Most of them are routing at the moment. But yeah, most of them are about militia level. But here comes our blunder. The enemy general gets a charge on my general downhill. Holy crap. Could not have been much more of a blunder, to be honest. He kills about a good third of our general's unit, and there was a very high chance that he would kill our general here, so my immediate response was to send in our mercenary cavalry in a sort of sacrificial lamb way and try and pull our general out of there, because if our general dies, our army has just got to rout. They're not going to be able to handle it. So since we actually have our right hand side up there open, I'm going to be sending around those troops to outflank the enemy's infantry, but also to save our general so he can pull through them and catch the enemy general in some infantry, hopefully. Annoyingly though, the enemy general is going to be very, very good at constantly pulling out of fights, which is what you want to be doing with shock cavalry. You want to hit and run, and that's what the AI is going to do, which is really surprising and really nice to see, actually. So hats off to the modders for that. By this time, my mercenary cavalry have already completely shattered. They're off the field, and all I have is half of my general's unit. So instead of having him fighting anyone, I try to keep him close to my troops to provide some morale to keep them going. But here is where the real issue in this battle lies, is the constant charges coming in from the enemy's general. I really can't stress it enough how much of a pain in the ass he was to deal with, and you guys are going to see that more and more as the battle goes on and on. We do have a fair few routing units running from the battlefield though, which is excellent. Although admittedly a fair few of them are just his skirmishers that ran in, but a few of them are his swordsmen as well, which we needed gone. Again, they were militia level swordsmen, but swordsmen against spearmen usually deal a lot of casualties, so having them run was excellent. And now we're just really wrapping up our line on the few units that he has left. But he does have some coming back from routing, as you can see down below. And I have a couple levy units out there just chasing down their light infantry that are shattered. But the more men we can kill right now, the less we'll have to kill when we take Pyrrhus. So that's why I was sending out my levies out there on their own. And it's just a levy unit. I don't really care if they get destroyed. I just want to protect my Principes and Hastati. We have another chain route going on here, at least a small one. A couple of their units are running, and we continue our wrapping up of the enemy's main line, but also while doing that we try to establish a second line behind our flanking units, or I guess in front of should be the correct way to say it, to stop the enemy from reinforcing them, but also to stop the enemy general from hitting them in the rear. And this is why, as you can see, the enemy general is charging in now, and every time I set a unit to defensive formation, he swaps last second and hits the unit next to it. It's incredible how well the AI did with this. It was a really big pain in the ass. I continue trying to form up the third line, or second, third, I don't even know at this point. Everything's just a bit of a clusterfuck. We do have some Hastati units trying to come back after routing, but they are going to get shattered by the enemy general here in a second. A butterfly could have shattered them at this point. Oh, they were just that distraught. They lost so many of the men in their unit, and we've lost a lot of our men from our army overall. But again, we're just continuing to try and stop the enemy general from rear charging our men. That's why we have these units out here scattered in their defensive formation, which is actually working out fairly well. We're still taking a lot of casualties, but nowhere near as much as we would have if I didn't do this. Sadly though, I kind of had a bit of a bug happen. I don't know if it's my mouse or if it's a thing with Rome Total War, but my right click was not working, and so in doing that, that's why that unit got shattered. I wasn't able to place them properly in a defensive formation, so the enemy got an excellent charge on them, completely shattered them, and that was that. The battle is still going on though in pretty much the same way. It's just a matter of us wrapping up the enemy, surrounding them, hopefully winning the morale fight. As you can see, some of these units are actually really decent on morale considering how much they've lost. But the reinforcement units they sent against us are actually all done for now, so it's just all of these units up here. I still have some levies chasing their routing units around. But it's basically the enemy general and like 2 or 3 enemy units now, and they're all surrounded. So it's just a matter of time. And it's a matter of minimizing our casualties, because as you can see, the enemy general just doesn't stop. He's still going and going and going. I honestly cut out probably about 15 plus minutes of this fight, so it was around 26 minutes long total. And a good 8 minutes of that was just the enemy general at the very end, constantly charging in my troops. It took us a long time to round him up and finally have him rout. But that's where we are right now. I'm just forming up my lines to try and not get recharged by the enemy, because if I do, there's a good chance that unit in particular will shatter, and we don't need to be losing any more men to a single unit right now. It's just, it's a big no-no. It doesn't need to happen. So I'm just trying to slowly but thoroughly send my troops forward, have the general support them with morale, and just outflank their enemy unit. And we do eventually. Sadly though, we never end up killing the general. Pyrrhus himself, bloody bastard, actually ends up escaping with what's left of his pathetic army, but we do end up winning the battle. So we're gonna go and skip ahead here, and I shall see you guys on the campaign map. And there we have it. Epirus is defeated, and we crush both of their armies sent against us. Although we do not defeat them entirely, you can see that they do have a fair few units that survive, although they are very battered and bruised. Thankfully, we do kill the elephants as well, which is always a nice bonus. Here I'm actually going to enslave the captives, give us a short-term boost to the economy, but also I want to see what it will do for us in the long term. See what slavery can do in Rome, and see if we'll encounter the same IRL problems that Rome had with it. Now, the First Legion itself actually got upgraded from that battle. They performed so well, the soldiers deserve it. So we will give them the Vanguard trait, just to increase their movement range a little bit. Now, while I'm looking over what else I want to upgrade with them, we're actually going to replace the general in charge, Quintus. If you guys will remember, he is the leader of the Junia faction, which is our most rival faction at this time in terms of having control over the Senate of Rome. So we're going to replace him with our leader of the Julia family, who we will be calling Gaius for now, because his name is just insane. Yeah, we're going to be sending Gaius in. He is a good commander, a decent commander anyway, and he'll become a fantastic one in time. But also doing this actually completely revives our general's unit to 100%, which I didn't think about, but that's a nice little bonus, something I don't want to take advantage of in the future though. Now we're actually going to merge all of our units together. Usually I wouldn't, but because I know Epirus is weak, I know they've been battered, I really want to take the initiative and take them on right here, right now. And so to me, the best way of doing that is by merging all of our units to be solid and unified, instead of having them all with deep cracks in their lines, essentially. Now here I'm looking at the garrison of Tyrus, which again wasn't touched in the battle. We only fought the two enemy armies outside of it, so here I am debating what to do, and I debated for a long time if I even wanted to do this, but we are going to go through with it. We're going to hire some mercenary swordsmen, and then we are going to go and attack Pyrrhus himself, who's on the northern side of Tyrus, in the hopes of drawing out the garrison to try and get them involved. Sadly, our agent is terrible at this time. Agents in this mod have been very overhauled, as they have in the vanilla updates recently, and it takes a fair while to get them to be all that useful, but they are excellent for scouting. So anyway, here goes the attack, and you will see actually we only get the enemy's garrison army reinforcing. We don't get the other general reinforcing, which is excellent. So we have that army to fight. It's a few hoplites, a lot of archers, and some civilians. The garrison army isn't going to be too strong, and Pyrrhus' army himself is weakened, and so I don't know, it's going to be a hard fight, but I think we got this, and if we do, we'll be taking Tyrus and all of southern Italy, and that is where we're going to end it. Thank you all for watching, hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next episode.